What up? What up? Hey, good morning, everybody. How's it going? Excuse me. This is yours truly, Rama Screen, covering movies, TV, and entertainment. Before I go on and give you my live review of today's brand new Marvel Cloak and Dagger episode, I just want to give a quick shout out to the latest addition to Rama Screen Patreon. That's right, we have a new patron joining in, and her name is Delushika. Delushika, thank you so much for your pledge of monthly support. Um, it's awesome. We welcome you, and you've joined the other equally awesome patrons. And so, for those of you out there who also like this channel and you like the reviews and the news and the editorials that I give you on a daily basis, and you want to see it continue, if you wanted to see it continue, please also become my patrons at patreon.com/ramascreen. There are different levels, tiers. So even $2 per month can go a long way. Every little help helps. So I appreciate it, Delushika, and I invite the rest of you guys to also join in. All right, so thanks to Freeform and Marvel Television, I had the opportunity to screen the latest Cloak and Dagger episode that will air tonight. This is season 2, episode 3. The title is Shadow Selves. I'm sorry, Shadow Selves, and it will air tonight at I want to see about 8 p.m. I believe Eastern and Pacific time. So it'll be on Freeform. So this review is mainly for those of you, my fellow Cloak and Dagger fans, who are caught up with the show. Okay. So heads up, there will be some minor spoilers in this video, mainly because I will be recapping what happened last week, and also I'll be giving you some context of the synopsis of tonight's episode. So heads up, spoiler alert, you've been warned. This video will contain some minor spoilers. Nothing major, just minors, okay? All right. So last week we saw, what did we see? Okay, we saw the revelation revealing that Bridget has this doppelganger, and this doppelganger is much more aggressive than she is. And she's called Mayhem. And so the episode 2 ended with this shocked and Shigarine, right? Freaking Tandy, Tyrone, Bridget, they behold this character that looks like Bridget. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? Multiplicity. Um, and yeah, I mean, I would be shocked too if I see somebody who looks exactly like me or carbon copy of me just walking around or like right in front of my face. I'd be like, what the? I'd be speechless. Um, and so in this episode, we get to see more of why that is, the origin of Mayhem, um, why Bridget has this double that's going around and killing people. So that's what this episode is for. That's the purpose of this episode, which is why in this episode, Shadow Selves, season 2, episode 3, we see a little bit of a flashback. So there's some going back and forth going on um, from when Mayhem happened to be, and in the present day when Tandy and Bridget and Tyrone trying to figure out who this Mayhem is. So where the end of where the end of episode 2 left off last week, Mayhem basically invites Tandy and Tyrone to join her on this crusade to take down the bad guys of New Orleans. But of course, Tandy and Tyrone's like, "Whoa, we're not gonna just join you. Look, you're hurting people. You're killing people." So she draws her gun, about to shoot them, and Tyrone in this episode teleports himself along with Tandy and Bridget to the church. And if you recall, that was one of the challenges of Tyrone, because Tyrone doesn't or did not know how to figure out how to transport or teleport him with somebody else or with something. That's the problem that he had with that girl on the ambulance. Remember that? So this time he figures it out. He gets it down. Like he gets it locked down. It's like, oh, I can do it now. But it takes a lot out of him. It takes a lot out of it is his energy to teleport him along with somebody else. So you see in this episode, he's like, kind of like drawing his breath, like, oh my god, I need a minute, I need a minute. I'm so exhausted. Maybe there'll be maybe after a couple of times doing that, you know, he'll get so used to it that he won't be like every time after he'd be like, oh my god, I'm exasperating. I need to catch my breath. But that's what happens in this episode. Um, so in the flashback, we see about I want to say about 200 days ago, so less than a year ago. That's where they set the flashback in, and we see Mayhem coming out of the water or out of the swamps, I should say, because New Orleans. And it's revealed in this episode that apparently uh Roxxon, the crop company, like it's a play on Exxon oil company. So the contaminated water that's the one that causes when Bridget falls into it or fell into it, she gets split into two. That's the cause of it. And Mina, that Asian scientist who's really cute, she finds out about that from her experiment with this mouse that gets split into two, and one of the mice attacks the other because like Bridget, Mayhem is more aggressive than Bridget. Um, and so that's where like, oh, that's how it happens. That's how we see. Like Mina's like, wow, I never thought this could happen to humans, but I've seen it to happen to mouse. So yeah, it makes sense now. Now I haven't read the Marvel Cloak and Dagger comic books, as I mentioned to you 1,000 times. I did not grow up reading it, Cloak and Dagger. If you did, let me know if I get some of the information or the facts wrong. But I read on Wiki that it's different origin. So Bridget dies in the comic books. Tandy and Tyrone try to revive her. They fail, so they left her to find to find the person responsible for her death. And then Bridget gets reborn. She gets reborn as Mayhem in the comic books. So it's not two split different people, um, at least to my understanding. But in the comic books, as I read them, that Mayhem is aggressive. Mayhem is a vigilante, and Mayhem hurts and kills bad guys. Um, and she has this green venomous gas. Uh, but that's not what this episode reveals yet. We don't know exactly the full extent of Mayhem's power on the show. Remember, because the writers of the show kind of take or kind of do their own take on Mayhem. But they do keep one element about Mayhem that's consistent to how Mayhem is on the pages, and that is, and you'll see in this episode, she has green talon-like nails, so she can cut or slice people, open, like slice their throat and kill them. There's no revelation of any venomous gas in this episode, so we don't know yet if this version of Mayhem will have that power. I think in the comic books, Mayhem can also fly or levitate, so that's not in this episode as well. But it's interesting. It's a very fascinating episode. If you are curious about this other version of Bridget, who is much more aggressive, this episode kind of helps you gradually in getting to know her. Um, Here's another part also that I want to discuss. Bridget and Mayhem think alike, because they share kind of same like-minded, they may not be the exact same, like one is more aggressive than the other, but they share this telepathic thing, whatever Bridget does, Mayhem will probably do the same thing as well. Uh, so if Bridget has a favorite coffee, the way she likes her coffee, Mayhem would probably order the same type, like two sugars, whatever. If Bridget has a favorite band, Mayhem probably likes that same band too. So, and because of that, even though Mayhem, because Mayhem is kind of like in Bridget's head and Bridget's in Mayhem's head, and because of that, Mayhem, even though Mayhem is like 2-3 steps ahead of Tandy and Tyrone, it's not that difficult for Tandy and Tyrone and Bridget to track down Mayhem, because Tandy and Tyrone has Bridget, and Bridget's like, hey, where would Mayhem go if you were Mayhem? You share the same thought. And one of the things that they, because they find out this shady hotel apartment that Mayhem is staying in, and I like this method that Bridget has, this detective investigative method involving cards. Um, I don't really quite know how that exactly works, but it works for her, and it looks cool watching her um, play out that method. I think that's fascinating. I think, as I mentioned to you last week, that in season one, Bridget is sort of like set apart from Tandy and Tyrone, even though Bridget occasionally would cross paths with Tandy and Tyrone and their ordeals, but she's more of over there, and they're over here. In season two, obviously with the advent of Mayhem, Bridget is becoming more front and center, or maybe equal to Tandy and Tyrone as far as screen time and whatnot. And so that's that. Tonight's episode gives you, or hints, or gives a hint at that, like saying like, hey, you're gonna see more of Bridget in this season, okay? Whether you like it or not, that's what's gonna happen. Um, another arc that this episode presents or tackles is with regards to Father Delgado. Remember Father Delgado? Um, he is the school priest at the school that Tyrone goes to. Occasionally, he would counsel Tyrone and the other kids, but in the at the end of season one, it was revealed that the priest, Father Delgado, had his own secret shadow. Like, because freaking Tyrone, one of his many abilities, other than cloaking and teleporting, is that he can reveal people's fears. Uh, and Tandy can, in addition to her light knife, she can reveal people's hopes. Um, and so it's revealed that what he did in the past, what Father Delgado did in the past. And so in this episode tonight, part of the arc, in the flashbacks, Mayhem occasionally visits Father Delgado. Father Delgado is no longer a priest, or he steps down, and he becomes a drunk on the streets of New Orleans. And I gotta give credit to the actor who plays Father Delgado. I want to give a shout out. His name is, let me get that here. I have it right here. Jaime Zavalos. Fantastic performance, Jaime. Fantastic performance in this episode. I mean, you truly believe him in, like, he looks like he's at rock bottom. Like he's just like a drunkard, man. Like really, really hopeless, helpless. He's like one of those guys on the streets that would be like preaching out loud, nonsense, mumbo jumbo, and like, oh, the end of the world, whatnot. That's so Jaime plays it really well in this episode. So I gotta give him credit for that. And his interactions with Mayhem is fascinating because it's sort of like not good versus evil, but more like, Mayhem is the somebody who Mayhem is somebody who embraces her corruptness, somebody who embraces her evil nature. Like, I gotta kill people, I gotta kill bad guys. And 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 Father Delgado is this guy who's just like so down on his kind of luck and beaten down, and they're trying to rationalize each other in this episode. They're trying to rationalize each other, and you'll find their exchanges, their interaction to be really, really fascinating. Mayhem is not there to hurt Father Delgado. Father Delgado is not there to convert Mayhem. They're just having this talk. I think it happens about like 3 scenes, I want to say, and I love it. I love it. It's fascinating. So before I conclude this review, I just want to say that I think if I were to theorize or speculate as to what happens moving forward, um, I don't know if the Mayhem in the comic books is considered a villain to Tyrone and Tandy in the comic books. It just says that she's a vigilante. But I think I'm theorizing that I think because this Mayhem, the one on this show, kills and hurts bad guys, in the name of like, oh, I need to clean up the city. Because of that, I Tyrone and Tandy have no choice but to take her down. Because Tyrone and Tandy have the same enemy as Mayhem, uh, who are the gangs, the drug lords who have been kidnapping women. And you'll get to see in this episode also a pretty cool scene where Tyrone and Tandy try to rescue those women from the gang. Um, so Mayhem, even though Mayhem and Tandy and Tyrone have the same enemies, obviously obviously Mayhem feeds into our human nature's deepest, darkest desires that like would wish harm to happen to bad people. We're like, oh man, eye for an eye. Who cares about throwing them into jail, or who cares about justice system? Let's kill them already. So Mayhem speaks to that. Mayhem feeds to that. Um, but because Tyrone and Tandy don't believe in hurting people in the process of taking down bad guys, that put them at odds with Mayhem. And I think this is how in season 2 we're gonna see them collide or clash with each other. And in tonight's episode, there's a bit of that clash happens, but it also suggests that Tyrone and Tandy are not ready. So Tyrone and Tandy show up at the strip club trying to take down freaking Mayhem, but Mayhem overpowers them. So I think we're gonna see throughout the season 2, Tyrone and Tandy trying to figure out a way whether or not to own and master their skills some more or learn some new tricks, whatever. Right? They're gonna really put their heads together. It's like we gotta stop, Mayhem. Because in tonight's episode, they're not able to do that. If even Bridget is not able to shoot Mayhem, it's like, oh my god, I don't know if I would be able to shoot a doppelganger of myself either. So they have this thing that's holding them back, and I think they're gonna figure out like, all right, let's put our heads together and find a way to take down Mayhem. And so that's how Mayhem is a villain, even though she would say like, hey, I'm on your side, we got the same common enemy, don't we want to clean up the city, you know but because of her method, her killing and hurting people along the way, yeah, that makes her a villain to Tandy, Tyrone, and Bridget. And because that would be the center focus of this season, right? Because last season it was about the Roxanne investigation and Connors, the one who shot Tyrone's brother Connors is also mentioned in this episode a lot. Um, but because the focus now has shifted to Mayhem, figuring out Mayhem, figuring out how to take her down. Um, every other supporting characters, every other supporting character in this show, including Tyrone's parents, Evita, whoever, they too will be in service of that focus, in service of that story. I don't think I'm I'm theorizing that they're not gonna show up as prominently as in season one. We're not gonna see too much of them anymore because it's gonna be more of Tandy, Tyrone, and Bridget, those three. But whenever they show up recurringly, they're gonna be there in service of you know figuring out or tackling this mayhem. So I think that's what's going to happen moving forward. But we'll see. We'll see. My theory might be wrong. That's why I love this show, man. The writers throw a curveball at us. Please go watch Cloak and Dagger. I don't think the show has been renewed yet for season 3, so I want a lot of eyeballs to check it out. Again, it airs every Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Pacific time, on Freeform channel. So, okay, Freeform, fantastic show. I love also the song selections in every episode, including in this one. In tonight's episode, you'll see a little bit of a Catholic choir thing going on. Whenever Father Delgado shows up, and then in the strip club, you see like a very energetic, electronic kind of music going on, and it's fantastic, fantastic, great choices. So go check out Cloak and Dagger, everybody, and that's my review of Marvel Cloak and Dagger season 2, episode 3. Um, oh, one last thing. I also provide. I've provided the links below, YouTube links, to my video interviews with Olivia Holt and Aubrey Joseph and Emma Lahana, the three actors who play Tandy, Tyrone, and Bridget, respectively. So go check it out. Okay, go watch them here on Rama Screen YouTube channel. I've provided the links in the description box below this video. Blah, blah, blah. So watch those video interviews. I asked Emma at one point in my interview with her, like, which one's more fun to play, Bridget or Mayhem? And she said Mayhem. Of course, of course, of course. It's more fun to play a bad guy in any situation, any story, and you can tell in tonight's episode that Emma is just having a blast playing this Mayhem, and like when she looks like sinister, like she has this bulging eyes, and her head tilted down a little bit, and she looks at the her prey like this. Very stereotypical, of course, but it's fun to do. It's fun to do as an actor. I can only imagine. I'm not an actor. So, yeah, go watch the video interviews. The links are below. And thank you so much for tuning in on this special live review of Marvel Cloak and Dagger Season 2, Episode 3, titled Shadow Selves. Go watch it tonight on Freeform channel. Thank you, everybody. Let's rock this.